This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming Annie McGreevey. Annie, wow, she's Broadway history. She's done so many great Broadway plays back in the day, Sweet Charity, Company, Doug Henning's Magic Show, which is one I really want to talk about. And she was in Annie with another guest of mine, Shelley Bruce, and hopefully someday guest, Diana Barrows. And she was in the cult movie Below the Belt, where she played the beautiful Boomerang, this tough Irish lesbian girl who is a female wrestler in that movie. And she left such an impression on me with that movie that I had to reach out to her. I got into that movie recently on YouTube, and it's really, really cool. It's very much a product of its time, and this is going to be a great conversation today. She also guest starred on Our Own, Tales of the Unexpected. She's been on all the Law and Order shows. It's going to be a great conversation. And she was married to the warden from the Shawshank Redemption, Bob Gunton. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting talk today, and I just cannot wait. So yeah, here is my interview with Annie McGreevey.
Hello?
Hey Annie, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm trying to get this to the speak. Is that better?
Yes, it sounds great. This is such a great honor. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure, absolutely.
So, going back in time, what age did you start gravitating toward acting?
Oh, wow. I would say towards acting, age 10.
Did you get involved in school plays and community theater and all of that?
Yes, I got involved in school plays. I had a wonderful homeroom teacher who I was the class clown. And so she was trying to get me focused in the right direction. She said, perhaps you need to be on stage.
Yeah, were your parents actors?
Not my parents, but my grandfather's family were vaudevillians. So it's kind of in the blood. My grandfather's cousin and uncle were some of the first recording artists with Edison. And Uncle Al Campbell was part of the Peerless Quartet, which were very famous singers of their day, kind of like the Beatles of their day, really.
Wow.
And so it's kind of like we were always encouraged to sing, and we're always enamored of the arts. And kind of when I was very young, my mother went to all of the Broadway shows and would bring home the album, and I would learn it from beginning to end, whatever the score was. So that's my beginning.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah, I love hearing that stuff about the turn of the century, vaudeville and the medicine shows and all that stuff that happened. It is so cool.
Yeah. It's exciting. It's exciting.
It's stuff that doesn't get talked about very much these days, because people are so offended by things that happened, i.e., the minstrel shows and all that stuff, that everyone's trying to erase history.
Well, I don't think my uncle was ever involved in a minstrel show, but I think people should put things into context.
Yes.
The time frame,
Yeah, they don't.
Was a different time.
Yeah, they don't do that, unfortunately. So you're born and raised in Brooklyn?
I was born in Brooklyn, and we moved to Long Island when I was 6 years old. And then I went to New York when I was 18 years old to go to drama school at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. So I really came to New York as a teenager, and then pretty much started in the business right away after graduation from the American Academy.
Yeah, did you study with any of the famous teachers out in New York?
Well, my mentor was Win Hanman, and he was. There's a documentary on him now. It Takes a Lunatic. It's on Netflix, I believe, and he was an incredible teacher. I studied with him for many years, but I had terrific teachers at the American Academy. One in particular, Harry Master George, is a pretty well. He's a very successful teacher on the coast now. But I was very fortunate in whom I was able to study with.
Wow! And any classmates we would know?
Yes, actually, Danny DeVito was my classmate at the American Academy.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's a great guy, and he was a terrific guy then, very, very talented, and he's still a terrific guy, terrific actor. He's coming back to Broadway and something.
Oh, of course.
I can't remember. Yeah,
of course, he's one of the greats. Did you know Clarence Felder?
Velder?
Clarence Felder.
How did Felder?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe I know that name.
Okay, yeah.
Was that?
He was in New York in the 70s acting, and then he came out to LA for a long time after that. Yeah, him and Danny DeVito went way back.
Oh, in New York. No,
yeah.
I'm surprised I don't know that name, because I knew Danny quite well then. And then another classmate and friend was the roommate of Danny's, Ben Marino.
Yeah.
So he probably knew Felder, if that's his name. But it's probably somebody I know, and now I'm embarrassed, but I can't picture him.
Yeah. So, Sweet Charity was the first Broadway show you did?
Yes. I was hired to do the Las Vegas company, which Bob Fosse directed. And Julia Prowse was the star. And Gwen Verdon came in and assisted Bob Fosse in teaching the role to Juliet. And then we opened in Las Vegas, and I was just there 4 months. I was really homesick. I was young,
Yeah.
I was too young to even be in the casinos. And I came home, and they put me in the Broadway show. So
yeah,
it was great.
It was a fun overall. It was a fun overall experience. Bob Fosse, he wasn't intimidating.
No, not at all. Was nothing the way he's depicted. He was not a sleazeball. Excuse my language,
you
but
can swear all
he was
you want.
not. He was not. No. He was. I mean, everyone adored him because he adored his actors. He adored his dancers, and he wanted He said he didn't want to look up on stage and look anywhere on stage where he wasn't seeing somebody fully engaged and the star of the show. That's the way he thought of his ensemble people. So, of course, everybody gave 510%. And what a way to start with Bob Fosse. I mean, he was fabulous. A real actor's director. And, of course, we all know a brilliant choreographer.
Right.
And to work with Gwen Verdon was quite an honor. I mean, with any of those people, I was very, very fortunate in my start. The first thing that I did right out of school was On a Clear Day You Can See Forever, which was with Van Johnson and Linda Lavin. That was a national tour, which closed out of town. And the conductor was somebody who was going to go work for Fosse doing this Sweet Charity tour. And he said, come on over. I want you to sing for Bobby. I didn't even know who Bobby was.
Yeah.
And I went over and I auditioned and I was hired that day. So I had a really great start of my career. I've had a very good career overall. So
absolutely, yeah. I'm not too familiar with people who were in the replacement cast with you, but the original cast had Ruth Buzzy and Suzanne Charney. Did you know them?
Yes, Suzanne Charney was actually took over her apartment. She was on the road.
Mm-hmm.
She took over. She was doing Barbara Sharmer's role on the road, and then subsequently she did the film. And Suzanne, I took over her apartment in New York when she stayed out on the coast, and I understudied the Ruth Buzzy roles. So I did all of those things on Broadway and in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's funny, with understudies. The understudies never have the same look, the same type of energy as the person who's in the actual role. It's like the complete opposite of what Hollywood does, because in Hollywood, when you're making the movies and stuff, they're like, okay, we don't want to go with this type, so we'll go with that with this type, or we'll get someone exactly like that person,
Well, I find that somebody who is a standby or an understudy has to. It's a very difficult job because you have to step in at the last minute and be letter perfect,
Mm-hmm.
or you'll throw people off on stage. It's very funny when I auditioned for Bob Fosse originally. They said, "Okay, you're hired." And I said, I need to speak to Mr. Fosse. And they were like, no, you're hired. Just to, leave it alone. And I went out on stage and I said, Mr. Fosse, I can't leave town if I don't have speaking roles. And he just laughed. And he gave me all of these, all the crossover lines and all the things I could do. But I was right out of drama school. So I was, doing all kinds of character work, and I was very serious about it. And here I was doing, just doing a crossover line in Sweet Charity. And I walked on a stage and I was doing this character walk and everything. And he said to me, Anne, we don't need Lee J. Cobb doing Death of a Salesman. Just come on, say the line, and then go off. I just took it all so seriously.
Yeah. Then you do Company. How was that experience?
Oh, that was great. That was great because I was a replacement, but I replaced with Jane Russell.
Yeah.
And so Hal was doing this whole publicity thing where he took half of the original company and he sent them out on the road. And so he billed it as the original company, and then the half of us that stayed in New York, it was a big opening for Jane Russell, so I had the benefit of a rehearsal with Hal and with Stephen and the whole thing, and then I went with the company to London, and that was very, very exciting. But in New York, we had, when we were getting ready to switch over companies, the whole Bobby Baby. I don't know if you're familiar with the score, the opening. Bobby, 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 Baby,
Not really.
Bobby, Bobby. So it's people on a platform, just trying to get Bobby's attention down below.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult to learn, in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they did was they had all of us come in, and Pam and I stood next to each other. Elaine and Jane Russell stood next to each other on all of these platforms, and we did the Bobby Babies. So we were all get it,
Uh-huh.
It was quite an experience. The whole thing was an exciting experience. I was with the company when that company that had been sent out came back. Mm-hmm. So I was there for closing night with Elaine and everybody. And that was extraordinary because it was a big, big hit in New York. And then when we went to London, it was like, almost like Hamilton here. There was such an excitement about the show. So, it was pretty heady time.
Wow. Yeah, and also you had Jack Lemmon's first wife, Shirley, in it, and Priscilla Lopez, who was so funny.
She's great. She was the understudy, Priscilla Lopez was the understudy for Donna McKechnie. And I saw Priscilla several times come on, like, I think she lived, I'm not sure, but I think she lived in New Jersey or somewhere, where she came in one time and it was snowing out and she had boots on and all of that, and she was late for the half hour, and all of a sudden she was on. Mm-hmm. So I can remember her pulling off her boots in the wings and, just like kind of running on stage and joining the cast. Priscilla is a very, very talented, very nice woman. Mm-hmm. And to fill Donna's shoes was a big, big deal. And also to do it on a moment's notice. Excuse me. Yeah. I had to sneeze. Excuse me. That's an example of an understudy who was equally talented in her own way, as she proved when she went on to a chorus line and other things.
Mm-hmm. How does Doug Henning's The Magic Show come to you? How
did it come to me?
Yeah,
I auditioned for it. I'm sure my agent sent me up for it. I was naturally interested in it because it was Stephen Schwartz. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty. It was overall a good experience, but it was quite challenging. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of dance and singing, and there's a number with boxing gloves, where Cheryl Barnes and I were singing this number and dancing with boxing gloves and taps on our hips and taps on the gloves. And that was really a very difficult number to learn and to execute. But it was very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal for a while. I mean, the whole world really became aware of Doug Henning through this. It's funny, I interviewed his former manager from like 68 to 70, who was it was just one of the many things he did. He was his manager. His name's Mitch Markowitz and stuff, and he was just an amazing performer. That guy.
Who, Doug?
Yeah, Doug.
Well, Doug was a terrific magician. Mm-hmm. And a darling man, who's also a very savvy businessman. So,
and Ivan Reitman produced it.
Yes.
Yeah, what was he like?
I don't really remember.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, because I heard he liked to yell a lot. That's the only thing I ever heard
No,
that was
no,
bad.
no, no. I never heard any yelling. No,
Yeah,
no, there wasn't any yelling for us.
and you had some good people in the
An
cast.
interesting thing was
Uh,
that Paul Schaefer. Do you know
yeah,
Paul Schaefer
of
from the Tonight
course.
Show? He
No, no,
was
late night.
he was the pianist.
Right.
He had just come from Canada, and he was a young guy who came in, of course, wonderfully talented, and he was our pianist for the show.
And Jeff Milet. That's another Godspell connection because he was in Godspell, but not the same production as Paul Schaefer. But there was like a Godspell connection there.
Yeah, yeah.
And David
Yes.
Augensteyers, long before MASH, and Anita Morris. She was so talented. We lost her way too soon. Yeah.
She was a wonderful woman. Wonderful. Wonderfully talented and wonderful human being. Really.
And Patty LuPone.
I loved the cast members. They were a great group of people and very, very talented across the board.
Yeah, Patty LuPone's brother, Robert, was in it.
Yes, Bobby LuPone was incredible.
And
incredible. He left to do a chorus line.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, I've talked to a few people from your revival of Annie. None of them are little girls now. They are all grown and they all have dirty minds.
I wasn't in the revival. I was in the original show on Broadway.
That's what I mean. I'm sorry. I didn't mean revival. Your run is probably what I was thinking.
Oh, no. Yeah. I adored that cast. Oh, my God. Sarah Jessica Parker was Annie.
Right.
For much of the time that I was in it. And she was just a darling, very bright little girl and terrific kid. Her whole family.
Yeah.
Siblings in the business.
I've talked to Shelley Bruce. She's awesome.
Yes, she's lovely too.
Diana
She's lovely. Those kids were something. They knew everybody's lines and everybody's part. They were.
Diana Barrows. Hopefully, I'm going to be getting her on soon. We've had many unrecorded phone calls over the last few years. She's been trying to make time to do this and stuff. Rita Rudner replaced you.
She did. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's funny because people don't associate her with Broadway. Everyone knows her as a stand-up, as a stand-up comedian, and she's so funny. But yeah, that's true. She replaced you. She did a couple Broadway shows.
She probably had a better career with stand-up.
Yes.
Not that she didn't have a good career in show business, but when I started out, the first thing I did really, while I was still in school, as a matter of fact, was sing at the improvisation.
Oh.
And Bette Midler was there at the same time.
Yes.
And I remember what we did when we were doing the magic show. That was the MC. And I went in to see her because we had known each other quite well during the whole time that we were beginner singers. And she said to me, get out of musical comedy. It's a dead-end street.
Yeah.
That's what she said. So maybe that's Rita Rudner had the same idea.
It could be, yeah. Wow. So you knew Bud Friedman?
Oh yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. I was a regular there. I knew all of those in the comics. I used to hang out with the comics because I lived over on the east side, and I would walk over to the 45th Street near 9th Avenue. And I would walk over there at night and, hang out and sing there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would get so late that I was afraid to walk back, and I didn't really have the car fare. So I'd hang out with the comics and then have breakfast with them in the morning and then go home. So all of those guys were, and Rodney Dangerfield was like the daddy of everybody.
Yeah.
Because he had been out in the world. He was a great guy. He was really, really a sweet, sweet man. I worked at his nightclub as well. Dangerfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a very sweet guy, and he really mentored the young comics. Richard Pryor was a really sweet young guy,
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Just
Richard Lewis, Steve Martin, Jay Leno, Richard Belzer, they all got their start in New York before coming out to L.A. when Johnny Carson moved to L.A. And stuff. And here's something I know. Danny Aiello was the bouncer at the Improv.
Yeah. You know what? I was wondering where I knew him from, and that's where I must have met him.
Yeah.
Because later on I knew him in the business, and I thought, what's the connection? He was the bouncer. Isn't that something?
Yeah. And Catch a Rising Star had a bouncer who went into acting because Dustin Hoffman saw him and said, "Hey, you could be an actor," because he was a big guy. God, I forget his name. His name was Richard something. I can't remember his last name, but he was a real big guy, and he became an actor all because of Dustin Hoffman coming in one night. Yeah,
all of the New York stories, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was a magical time. Everybody knew each other. There was no internet. Everybody hung out more. There was a camaraderie, but now it's just everyone's so divided by their devices and everything.
I don't know whether that's true. I think that, New York actors call it working on the street, right? You're working on Broadway, and everybody knows everybody else, and they're very supportive. So I wouldn't say that it's that way at all. I would say that there's a mutual respect and camaraderie, especially with people who have been in the industry for any length of time. Or, it takes a tremendous amount of talent to just get up there.
Right.
Just be counted as part of it.
And confidence too. Yeah.
Confidence, but also skill and fortitude, and it really takes I have tremendous amount of respect for everyone who's working in the theater.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it takes a real discipline to be a theater actor.
Yes, it does, because you have to do it 8 times a week.
Yeah. So how do you get cast as the beautiful Boomerang in Below the Belt?
Again, I'm trying to think of what I was doing the magic show while I was doing Below the Belt. As a matter of fact, I was rehearsing Below the Belt during the day because we had to actually learn how to be lady wrestlers. So I had a teacher named Chi-Chi Jacobson, and we used to go to the 14th Street Y, and I would learn all of the moves, studio wrestling. And we worked with Margaret Burke and the Fabulous Moolah. These are real wrestlers, the real old-time famous wrestlers, before it became all glitzed up and glamored up, So it was while I was doing the magic show. I guess I auditioned for it. I don't remember the audition exactly. I do remember very clearly doing it because it was a great experience. And I spent a long time learning it. And Regina Bath, who played the lead, and I were great pals. And that was a great cast. that film, I expected it to do more than it did. Do you know?
Yeah.
Kind of like a cult favorite, but it's not something that a lot of people know. But people say to me, I say I played a lady wrestler, the beautiful Boomerang, but she wasn't really a glamour puss. You know, she was
she had
kind of like anybody.
She had blonde hair, pale complexion, Brooklyn accent.
That's right.
She chewed gum.
Right.
She almost looked like a punk rocker from the New York scene.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I would compare her to anybody's in West Side Story. That's the kind of energy. She's like, oh, come on, let me do it, you know?
Yeah.
I want to be part of it.
Yeah, see you later, Turkey. Were you a wrestling fan?
Not before I did that film, but I didn't think of myself as somebody who would throw people around, but I really got into it. I'll tell you, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed like being able to do some of those holds. But you know, I fractured my hand in rehearsal for doing that. And my part was cut down considerably because of that. And I had to wear a brace. I had to wear a brace on my hand, and then we take the brace off while I was doing some of the scenes, not the wrestling scenes. Some of that stuff was actually filmed during an actual meet in Rhode Island or something like that.
Wow.
Those people were pretty rough back then. Do you know I'm talking about the audience, not the wrestlers. The wrestlers were, looked like bruisers in the ring, but they were really very middle class, kind of conservative people.
A lot of them
outside of the ring. So it was like the complete opposite of what we'd be backstage and gals would be knitting or crocheting and everything like that. These people that looked like they were going to tear your head off, So that was an interesting.
Do wrestling fans ever recognize you from it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the wrestling now is the women certainly are very kind of glamorous, not glamorous, well, glamorous compared to those women back then.
They got makeup and all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of makeup and cinched in waist and all of that, and that wasn't the case back then.
Regina Bath, is she still around?
I don't know. She's a very talented gal.
Yeah.
She did some stuff on Broadway, and she did some films that she was successful in, but I do not know where she is. A lot of people, sometimes some of the most talented people just drop out because of family obligations or because it just, they don't have a taste for it anymore. It's a very difficult, it's a wonderful career, but it's also a very difficult career. So some people just say, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'll see you later. I think I hear my mother calling me,
I remember she's the only female in Escape from Alcatraz.
Oh, really?
The Clint Eastwood prison movie? Yeah, she plays his wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was in a film, I can't remember the name of it. The Paper Chase? I can't remember the name of it.
Paper Chase, yeah, with Timothy Bottoms.
Yes, and she did a beautiful job in that, really memorable. A small role, but she was really, really memorable in her performance. It was very moving.
One person, there's one comedian that's in this movie I'd like to interview eventually. He wasn't a comedian then. He later became one. He was a radio guy, Fraser Smith.
I don't. I'm not placing him.
Yeah, he was young.
I'm not placing.
He was like 18 or 19 when he did this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what did he play? Was he like in the was coffee shop or something like that, or?
Yeah, his name is Terry Glantz in the movie.
Uh-huh.
I think so. Yeah. And also Shirley Stoller, she went on to
Yeah.
she went on to play Mrs. Steve in the first season of Pee-wee's Playhouse, which was shot in New York. And then when they moved to L.A., Paul Rubin's friend Suzanne Kent played a character similar to her, but a lot nicer.
She was a nice woman, though. Certainly.
Yeah. She was one of those women who was just so good at playing women who were absolute nightmares. You know?
I know. She looked like she would just kill you, and
Yeah.
she wasn't actually. She was like, as a matter, I remember her having back issues, and she was like, you had to deal with her very gingerly, because she had these back issues, and she looked like she would, take down the whole arena. She had done Lena Wertzmiller film or something like that, hadn't she, before Below the Belt?
Yeah. I didn't realize the Fire Sign Theater guys were involved in the voice work of this movie. I've interviewed 2 of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They were a groundbreaking improv group.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Well, it's a good movie, I think. It's a fun movie.
it is. I discovered it later in life on YouTube, and I guess it has a following amongst the wrestling fans. Although I've mentioned it to a few people who are wrestling fans that I know, and they haven't heard of it, and I'm like, you got to watch it. It's a time capsule in the history of wrestling, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you mention Mildred Burke,
Yeah,
and the fabulous Moolah.
That you guest starred on the short-lived sitcom On Your Own or on our own.
Right.
Do you remember anything about that experience?
I don't.
Yeah, it was Beth Armstrong.
Not right now. I'm not remembering it at all.
That's okay. Tales of the Unexpected. You play a nurse.
Yes. Tales of the Unexpected was with Shirley Knight and Tony Franciosa.
Right.
And I came in with the Southern accent. I was doing it with the Southern accent during the audition. Mm-hmm. As I came on set with that accent. And Shirley thought it was a good idea that she do the accent. So the director said to me, could you just drop the accent? And I said, well, if I drop the accent, that's the character. And they said, well, can you find another character? Because Shirley wants to do her role with the Southern accent. And I just had to come up with something really quickly. I can remember that. Well, that's kind of, that'll pull you up short,
Yeah,
when you come in with an idea.
I put it on YouTube the other night. Oh my God, it needs to be remastered. It was very grainy.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
but those were good.
Yeah, I mean, when I watch certain old shows on YouTube or wherever and stuff, it even as dated as it looks pretty good. But this show was like, oh my God, like I don't think anyone's put it out on DVD or like restored it or anything. It really needs like a screen update.
Well, I haven't seen it in a number of years, but
yeah, it was pretty interesting. How did you come to meet Bob Gunton?
I met Bob Gunton doing a production of Oklahoma. He played Curly and I played Ada Annie.
Uh-huh.
And we fell in love. Mm-hmm. And the rest is history. We have a beautiful daughter, Olivia Ann Gunton.
Oh.
And we had a lot of really good years together.
He's a very underrated actor. I liked him in Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, when Jim Carrey's got him strapped to the chair and he's doing that thing with his eyeball, and Bob's like, "Oh God, stop! My brother used to do that to me."
Well, he's a very talented man, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, most people know him from The Shawshank Redemption, but he's got comedy chops. He's good at comedy. Like when
Oh yeah.
when he's playing the mean, cowardly dean of the medical school in Patch Adams, he's pretty funny in that.
Yeah. We started out in musical theater, so.
Yeah. So you took a long break from acting at a certain point to stay at home, right?
I did. I actually took a break from acting a couple of times. The first time was to go to college because I didn't have an education. I had early on. I suffer with dyslexia.
Oh.
And early on, they told me I wasn't college material. And when I went to drama school and was successful there, but I never felt like I always felt like I missed out on an education. Mm-hmm. And at a certain point in my career, the roles that I went up for became more complex and difficult. And I was required to be a better reader than I was. I had a lot of difficulty with the scripts. And finally, I just said, I have to get help for this. I don't know what it is. And I had a year's remediation with the head of the Orton Dyslexia Society, Joan Knight, her name was. Mm-hmm. And after that year, and that was during the time I was working in theater and commercials, I decided to step back away from my career to go to Fordham University, which I did. Uh-huh. And fortunately, I had a very healthy career in commercials. So I had 5 national commercials running. So I had really, for the time that I was at Fordham, I had a paycheck because I had those residuals coming in. And I didn't feel like I was completely out of the loop. But then I got pregnant with Olivia, mm-hmm. and I tried doing both, but it was just too, I couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time. And I just felt that I was giving her short shrift if I didn't concentrate on her, which I did. But that, I kind of went back and forth. And when she was like 5 or 6, I felt that I could, because I was in New York, I could do both. And I went back into doing theater. And I did quite a number of shows and television and everything else. And when we moved out to the West Coast, because Bob's career was going more into film, mm-hmm. That's when I couldn't, logistically, I couldn't handle doing both. I didn't want my daughter to be raised by a housekeeper. Yeah. I wanted to be a hands-on mom, which I was, like a soccer mom, And so I stepped back away from that. But during that time, while she was in school, I studied filmmaking. So I became a filmmaker during that time. And I was part of the directing workshop for women at AFI, which is a wonderful, prestigious program which helps people to transitionalize from one area of the business into directing or producing or writing for film. So I did that, and successfully while Olivia was in school. And then I came to New York and came back into working in the theater. But it's kind of been back and forth with what life deals you.
Right.
With family members being sick and, taking care of people and that kind of thing. So,
yeah, oh,
here I am.
Trust me, I know how it is. I really do. But yeah, I mean, you've come back. I mean, you've been on all the Law and Order shows. Do you like doing those?
Oh, that was terrific. Really terrific. There are terrific people there, and they really, really take care of the people that are guest starring.
Yeah.
It's a great experience.
Yeah, I saw your demo reel on YouTube. I saw part of a Law and Order episode there, along with what's it called, Summer with Mrs. Von Mausch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the short film I did.
Yeah, was that a lot of fun to do?
Yeah, it was. It was. It's a great role.
Yeah, but at least...
Yeah, I have enjoyed most of the things that I've done. Some things can be challenging, but there are still things to cherish and enjoy in them. The process.
Mm-hmm. Now I know that the strike is going on, but are you still working and you got anything in the can?
I did an act this past year at Pangea, and I've done some stage readings of urban stages, and I'm starting to get back in, trying to get both feet back in the water, and I'm working on things. So I don't have a show upcoming, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Do you still enjoy doing theater?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a great experience. The relationship to the audience is a very rich one, and that's what makes it interesting. Every performance,
right,
is it changes with the people that are out there and what kind of energy they're giving off to the performer on stage. It's like a circle that keeps going around. It's a great experience to do live theater. I've done a lot of solo work too, which has been a great experience. I did a thing at Library of which was commissioned by the Library of Congress, a solo piece. It's about a triage nurse in Vietnam.
Right.
And so it's recounting the experience of Vietnam. And I toured with that and also did it at the Library of Congress. National Geographic was in conjunction with the Library of Congress were the ones that commissioned this. That was a very good experience. It feels like I've done a lot of solo work,
One-woman shows.
Yeah. There's no real safety net for that.
Yeah.
Tell you.
Yeah, it's become very popular though. Even comedians do one-person shows.
Yeah, I guess you can. It's cheaper to put it up, right?
Yeah,
you're self-contained.
Just you.
You don't have to rely on anybody else. You can just do it. I have a piece that was in development called "That My Michael Might Sleep Sound." It's about an Irish storyteller. We were trying to get that off the ground for a while. The drilling company was interested in doing it. it takes a lot of it takes a lot of energy and focus and drive to just keep going with that. A couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I went to the Fringe Festival. I've done the Fringe in New York, and I went to the Fringe Festival to see if something that I was working on that was had a political bent to it would fly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just went to the Fringe. And a friend of mine lives in Edinburgh, and I was able to stay with she and her husband. And I went to quite a number of shows there, and I was primarily looking at shows that were similar to the theme that I was doing, and I found them deadly dull. So I scrapped the whole project. I scrapped the whole project. I said, wait a minute, I want to be entertained. What the heck? I don't want to be preached to. And so that kind of became my act, the act I did at Pangea, because I said, well, what do I want to do? I want to entertain. I want to enjoy being with the audience and have them enjoy being with me, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so awesome that you still have all that creativity going for you.
Oh yeah.
So
I think actors die with the boots on.
Yeah.
You know, like old cowboys.
That's a great way of putting it. They die with their boots on.
Yeah.
Real quick, we got to play by Secret Silly Game. This is a series of silly slumber party questions. No win or lose. It's just pure fun. And how the game works is I ask you the question, you answer it. Then you ask me that exact same question and I answer it. And feel free to comment on answers because they might be funny.
Okay.
Annie, are you ticklish?
Yes. Annie, are you ticklish?
You mean Tommy, are you ticklish?
Oh, but you said to say it. I thought you meant I should just repeat. Okay, Tommy, are you ticklish?
That's the first time that's ever happened. Yes, I am very ticklish. If you tickled me without warning, though, I might hit you in the groin.
Oh, that's not nice. Okay.
Just out of reflex. Is your belly button an innie or an outie?
An innie. Oh, Tommy, is your belly button an innie or an outie?
It's an innie. What color are your toenails painted?
Red.
Nice.
Tommy, what color are your toenails painted?
Right now they're not painted, but last time they were lavender purple with sparkles.
Really? How cool.
Yeah, I like to go elaborate. I've always done that.
If you go all out.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it? Go all out or go home?
Exactly. What would you say is your best personality trait?
I like people.
Oh, I could tell.
Tommy, what is your best personality trait?
I have empathy and I have no filter.
And you have no filter? Is
Yeah.
that what you said?
Yeah. If you could have anything named after you, what would it be?
A hot fudge sundae.
Oh, I love it.
Tommy, if you could have anything named after you, what would it be?
It would be a vibrator, and I would call it the Tommy Chatsy.
Oh, God.
And then my favorite question, is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag?
Yeah, B.O.
Just in general?
Just in general, yeah. People who don't bathe, and they're oblivious. Tommy, is there a stinky smell that makes you gag?
Either farts or feet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good ones.
Those are the classics, as they say.
Yes, yes.
Annie, this has been such a tremendous honor. Thank you so much for coming on today, and I hope as soon as the strike gets resolved, you'll have a really good project to do next. And hopefully that one that you alluded to earlier will be out.
Thank you. From your mouth into God's ear.
Yeah. You have yourself.
That's right.
You have yourself a great day and be safe.
You too, Tommy. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Annie McGreevey, ain't she a sweetheart? What a great lady. I'm so glad that we got to talk today. And, wow, like I said, she's a part of Broadway history. Am I right? Am I right or am I right? Wow, that is so cool. She got to be on stage with Doug Henning. I am just dumbfounded by that. Okay, well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Fire, dudes!